Good afternoon, board members. Welcome to our 4 o'clock work session for Monday, August 15th. We do have a quorum that exists. Ms. LeBrecq is going to be late, but the rest of us are here and ready to go. And so at this point, we call this meeting to order. Ms. Anderson, will you offer our invocation, please?
All right, shall we all pray? Heavenly Father, we come to you this afternoon. First of all, thanking you for just seeing us through the day, Lord, just keeping us in your blessed keeping. We ask right now, Heavenly Father, that you would be with us, guide us, and we will always seek to do your will as we do the will for the Granville County Public School Systems. Be with each and every member, Lord. Be with those that are on their way and everyone that's here with us this afternoon. Lord, we just thank and praise your holy name and just ask we continue to give you the praise and continue to ask for your guidance. These things we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Williams, will you offer our pledge today?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again for coming today. This should be a short work session as we have a couple items to discuss, and then we'll go into our training afterwards. Do we need to make any adjustments to the agenda, Madam Superintendent?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have one adjustment to make. We had 2 items on the consent agenda this evening. I would like to remove item number 4.02. 4.02 needs to be removed this afternoon, please.
All right. Board members, any adjustments from you? All right, and with your consent, we'll move forward with this standing as our agenda today with that one change. We'll now move into a couple reports. Just want to remind you of a couple things for myself. Our Policy Review Committee met this afternoon. We will be bringing our first set of changes to policy to you at the September board meeting. And so what our plan is to bring that to you at the September board meeting as first read, and then for second read will be at the September work session, and we'll make an action on that at that work session. Also want to remind you we still have our Board of Education vacancy that we're working towards filling. Resumes are due August 26th, along with the other requirements outlined by the board, and Dr. Winborn sent those to our press partners. September 8th at 2 o'clock, we'll be here at Mary Potter to conduct the interviews. September 12th will be the swearing in for that new individual if we find a suitable candidate. Also, you see some dates there for the North Carolina School Board Association fall regional meetings. Currently, our region is meeting September 21st, but we don't have a location for that yet. Once that location is determined, we can come back as a board and decide if we all want to go together to that one. Wilson is close enough for us to travel to as well if the Central Regional one happens to be a little further away. So just kind of putting those dates on your radar. At this time, Madam Superintendent, your report.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us for this afternoon's work session. As our chairman said, it will be twofold. It will be a short meeting, and then we will launch into another portion of Master Board training together as our board works towards being certified in this area. So I'd like to thank our board for that work. This will mean after today's training, you will have only one more session before receiving your Master Board certification. I'm pleased this afternoon to share that our district is in full throttle, enrolling students and families at this time, starting to prepare athletically, onboarding our new teachers, and preparing for this Thursday night's Safety Summit at Northern Granville Middle School at 6 p.m. And we'd like to invite everyone to come out about that. That will be a joint meeting with law enforcement and community partners. Now, this will be a two-part event this year. The first part, we will answer pre-submitted questions. We're excited about that. We will have experts doing that portion of the meeting. And for the second part, we will have our principals, district staff, as well as law enforcement officials available for questions for those of you who are on site. So we invite you to join us for that work this Thursday evening at Northern Granville. We continue to work with law enforcement and our school nurses and social workers on trying innovative ways to ensure our schools are safe, secure, healthy, and properly covered as we prepare to receive our students this year. So we look forward to that work occurring this school year. And the national teacher shortage has impacted our district as well. We are still in need of teachers and substitutes, bus drivers, and a few other positions, including child nutrition and instructional specialists. If you are interested in serving in any of those roles, please visit our website or give us a call at our district office. We would love to hear from you. But I'd like to thank our Human Resources Department for their work at this time. They've done a wonderful job of trying to do everything in their power to fill positions with teachers in the classroom. And like many other districts across the nation, we may have some virtual teachers, but we want to make sure we have certified individuals in front of our students as much as possible. So if you'd like to assist in that area, please come on out and visit with us. If bus transportation is needed, I'd like to share this with our families who are viewing at this time. If your youngster needs bus transportation, stop by your child's school now so that we may plan for you even now so that there's no delay in the first day of school. Of course, we'd be happy to hear from you at open house, but if you know bus transportation is needed at this time, come on out and visit with us so that we may make plans for you and there will be no delay in the service. Finally, I'm asking everyone to please complete a free and reduced lunch application, for that is tied to our federal funding. Even if you think you may not qualify, we ask everyone to please complete a free and reduced lunch application. We're excited and looking forward to seeing everyone at Open House on Thursday, August 25th from 4 to 7:30 p.m. Yes, at all of our schools from 4 to 7:30 p.m. Let's make it a great year, everyone. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Any questions for the superintendent?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the Safety Summit going to be recorded on YouTube?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for asking. The Safety Summit will be recorded and we will post it. So if people cannot make it, it will be available for viewing. Thank you so much.
And live streamed. And live streamed.
It will also be live streamed. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Dr. Winborn. It will be live streamed, so you may watch it just as you're doing this tonight.
Any other questions for the superintendent?
Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, our first item of action, our consent agenda has one item on it now, the sole source request for the vendor pack back. You have the attachment there with the information there. That's coming from Curriculum and Instruction Services. What would be the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Peace. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Dr. McKnight. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. All right, motion carries. Our next item is in our section, our policy section, 5.01. Madam Superintendent, I believe we have some minor updates to our local classified salary scales.
Absolutely. I'd like to invite Mrs. Hines to the podium.
Thank you, board members. As a reminder, the local classified salary scales were originally approved at our last board meeting on August 1st. And as a reminder, the county commissioners, the Board of Education, our superintendent, and the executive team worked together collaboratively to make sure that we were able to meet the state mandate, which was either $15 an hour minimum wage for our employees, or a 4% increase for every classified employee. And all of us work together, county commissioners, Board of Education, everyone worked together to do that. And we are so grateful for that. Tonight's update is a technical correction that are listed in red on the document. It's a correction to the monthly rates for grade 62, steps 15 through 30, to align them with the grades above and below. Just as a matter of fact, that there are no current employees who are affected by this change. Again, we just noticed an issue and wanted to make that correction before it became an issue. Are there any questions?
All right. At this time, Board, I'd like to recuse myself from this vote. So, Mr. Peace, can you handle this vote for me, please, in the absence of our Vice Chair?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've asked for a motion to approve the scale as presented.
I make a motion we approve as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Williams and a second by Ms. Anderson. Question? Hearing none, all in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Peace.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Board. Ms. Hines. All right. Next is 5.02. I believe we're having an explanation on our school resource officer contract. So, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you so very much. Board members, you've already approved contracts. Mr. Graham, at this time, is just going to make certain everyone is clear about the payment of these contracts and our partnership regarding these contracts with the county, because we submitted to our commissioners the request to have an SRO in every school, and we just want to be sure everyone's clear about that request, one, in addition to another request for doors, as well as our SROs and the request to have one in every school. And we know that is a difficult request, but the payment of such is just as critical. So, Mr. Graham, will you take it away, please?
Thank you, Dr. McLean. I'm happy to do that. So it's a good opportunity to provide some clarity and maybe some context regarding the contracts. We have had an existing agreement between the district and the county that provides for 9 SROs in the district. Granville County Schools provided for 4. We paid for 4 of those SROs, 2 from the county directly and 2 through grant. Okay? The county paid for 4, 100%. One of those SROs is in the city of Creedmoor, so the money passes through, but it is all provided by the county. So that's 8, and then the 9th SRO is a combination, 66% paid by the county and 33% paid by the district. So those are the numbers, that's the math. My intent is to try to clarify things, and I'm afraid I'm going to muddy the waters, and I don't want to do that. But just so you know, that what I want to do is just sort of give you the context of where we are this summer, how we got to be where we are. So we had this agreement for 9 SROs. Last year, we had 3 vacancies. So we had 6 SROs trying to manage 17 schools. And Dr. McLean has been focused on safety since before I arrived, for sure. But certainly, you know, when I started this role last July, she made it very clear to me that safety was her #1 priority, and so that's what we've been engaged in terms of conversations and direction from her for the past year. So unfortunately, the tragedy in Uvalde last May increased the urgency for all of us regarding the SRO situation and regarding just safety in general. Additionally, this summer, the short session budget that was created by the legislature and as reported by DPI includes an additional $15 million to place SROs in elementary and middle schools. So Dr. McLean, being aware of that, had discussions with me about the importance of trying to find a way to have SROs in the elementary and middle schools that right now we don't have. So as I said, we had 6 last year during the school year trying to fill 17 schools. So what we did was there was one at each of the high schools, one at each of the middle schools, and they shared covering the elementary schools. And even at the end of last year, we lost one of the high school SROs to a charter. So it was pretty critical. So we have been in conversations with the sheriff all summer on how we can fill this. Unfortunately, the sheriff's department has the same challenge that we do as a district, and that is, he has vacancies that he can't fill. So we've had a lot of conversations about that. So I give you that information as background to the letter Dr. McLean referenced that she and Mr. Richardson sent to the county commissioners requesting that they fund the additional SROs. So that's where this is coming from. Have I thoroughly confused you all at this point? Okay. So I wanted to provide this information as background so that you have an understanding. This letter was sent to the commissioners saying, would you help us? Almost universally, those of us who are involved in any kind of safety training, safety conferences, the number one item that comes up is the importance of the SRO at the school. There are a lot of other things that we're engaged with, and we've been involved all summer with our local law enforcement, emergency management folks, conducting safety walkthroughs at each school to try to provide, a list of what are some things that we can do. I know a couple of the county commissioners talked to us about what can you do to harden your schools. We've looked at that, and we are continuing to make priorities. And that is something that can be done. But again, I can't overstate it. I mean, universally, everyone refers to the importance of the SRO in the building. So that's sort of the context for the letter that Mr. Richardson and Dr. McLean sent to the county commissioners, I guess a month ago. All right? So that's the information that I wanted to share with you about SROs. I'm happy to share additional. We have just recently had a meeting with the sheriff, as recently as today. And there are plans that are in place to try to fill those gaps. He has been successful in trying to bring a couple new folks in. And then additionally, Dr. McLean floated some very innovative ideas of how maybe we can use additional people to help us with the elementary schools and covering those as well. But so we are encouraged that there's hope, that he's working to get additional people. Our frustration, just to be clear, our frustration was that we already had these contracts and we didn't have the people. And so we were like, what can we do to help? So we talked about how can we assist in maybe spreading the word and advertising to get some folks to apply and that sort of thing. So, but we are encouraged from the conversations we had today that he's making progress on getting those filled. So I wanted to share that with you in case there's any questions. Is that helpful? Okay, because I sort of feel like you're getting a twofer here because both of these conversations are connected by the letter that was sent to the commissioners. So yes, Ms. Williams.
The 2 people you were indicating that he had, that 2 people maybe that are coming on board, is that going to just reduce the vacancies from 3 to 2? Is that what would happen there?
Correct. It will provide, by the time we're done with this and ready, it will be reduced to 1 of the 9. So we will have 8. But that's fingers crossed, wish upon a star, hope the planets align, all of that. Say all your prayers. That could happen. So that's not for sure. But that would mean we do have a new member of the squad, and there's discussions about the possibility of another one joining. And one who was considering retiring and leaving the squad has decided he will stay. So that's been a real blessing. So we were looking at dire straits at the beginning of the summer. We were looking at 4 vacancies, and now we're looking at 1.
Mr. Graham, I don't know if this was part of the focus of y'all's meeting today or
Correct.
not. One of the questions I posed to a commissioner during our liaison meeting was the fairness and the equity in the fact that charter schools don't have to share theirs. If we're in a crunch across the county for deputies, then why are they not servicing multiple schools? Were there any kind of answer from the sheriff's office for that? Because the commissioners didn't have one.
No, sir.
Okay.
We discussed it today, again, at length, so it's something we'll continue to work on.
Appreciate
To
that.
see. And I do want to say, just so everybody understands and is clear, in times of emergency and when there's a need, everyone responded fantastically. So we had responses from Oxford PD, Butler Public Safety, Creedmoor Police, everybody jumped in to provide assistance when there, when it's critical last spring. So there is that spirit of, what can we do to help? We just have to work on these logistics and seeing if we can come to some sort of agreement where people feel comfortable. But again, we're all in the same boat. Oxford PD is in this, they're facing the same exact dire straits of not having people. So we're all in the same sort of predicament. Okay? So that was my main thrust, was to try to provide some clarity and, answer any questions you might have regarding the contract specifically, just so you knew where we were. We're engaged in this partnership with the county, and it has worked very well up to now, and we hope that it continues. Yes, Ms. Williams?
I just want to make sure I understand. The sheriff's department is the hiring agency for SROs. We do not get involved.
We
in
do
that.
not hire. The agreement is that they will provide. And the one SRO that's in Creedmoor, that has just been a long-established relationship between South Granville and the city. And so the funding comes through the commissioners to the city of Creedmoor, and they provide it. But otherwise, the sheriff provides the personnel. Okay?
So, Mr. Graham, just to be clear, that
Yes.
the X in the letter is for additional SROs above the 9 that were already contracted?
That is
So that we
correct.
can have 1 at every school?
Correct.
Okay. So 8 additional SROs.
So, Mr. Graham,
Would you like me to state that as it's written? Or do you have it? You should have that.
I have the letter. I just wanted to be clear.
Okay.
That the letter was asking not for what we currently have contracted for, but we're asking for additional so that we
That
can
is
have 1
correct.
at every school.
The letter is asking to fund the additional positions.
Which has been an ask of our superintendent since day one when she got here.
Mr. Peace? you have a
how
question?
many will we have when school opens, you think? I mean, you got so many right now. You plan to add any before school opens?
He is in the process, we hope that the sheriff is in the process of bringing in 1 more, 1 additional. So we would be up to 8.
And we are asking for 17?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
We're a long way from 17.
We do have a long way to go. And we recognize that it's not strictly a funding issue, right? We realize this is where, do we have the resources? Do we have the manpower? So, Dr. McLean and the sheriff have been involved in creative ways to how can we fill this gap, so our kids are safe. I'm encouraged that we're going to arrive at something that people will be happy with. Okay? So this is an information item.
All right. Any further questions for Mr. Graham?
I don't know who the question's for really, but I guess I'm just I'm curious. So we're going to the commissioners to ask them for more money. Is there a reason why this didn't come out before we completed our budget?
Well, because Uvalde had not happened at that point. We've asked for 5 years. They know that's an ask. It's just never been a priority for them to fill that request. And now there's grant money that they can tap into to fulfill this. So it's really, am I correct, that it's not necessarily coming from county funds? But the problem we're running into is, A, we have a contract getting up to 9, which is a long-standing contract, so they're trying to fill those people, but then we need to backfill the other positions to get up to 17. So because we were asked, why wasn't it brought up at budget time, and that's when we had to remind them that this has been an ongoing conversation.
So to be clear, there's safety grant money available from the state, and we fully intend on applying, so it's not even about the money at this point. I'm interested in the people.
Correct.
So with the grant money available from the state, what is it that we're asking from the commissioners? Are we just asking for support? Are we asking them to fill out the grant? Or
More
No.
bodies.
just bodies?
Fill the positions. You know,
Bodies.
our hope is that we'd get the grant positions, but the state has typically been good. We've completed several safety grants. That's how we have filled nurses, counselors, social workers, SROs. We've done that for years. We will do it again now that these funds are here, and our hope is that we should get that money. That is our hope. That's what we commit to. In the event we don't, then of course, this ask is here. So I don't want any ambiguity about that with anyone. I'll ask anyone at this point for funds for this, but we will also try to help ourselves and complete grants
Correct.
at the same time. So I'm going to ask anyone for funding. Right now, I don't feel like the funding is as important as the people.
And that new funding that was a dramatic increase in previous years.
It was.
So this year was like 35 million, 23 million. Last year it was, in previous years, it was 9 million. So they dramatically increased the amount of funding. And those safety grants opened, I want to say August 5th, maybe, August 4th. So
And
they just opened and then they closed at the end of August. So we're working on those right now.
And Attorney Dubison, you may have to help me with this, but the language around that legislation with that, some of that funding anyway, was the expectation is that we'd have SROs in our elementary and middle schools, if I'm not mistaken.
That I'd have to look up as to whether that was specifically mentioned. I just know that it was to supplement.
Correct. It does say the school safety grants, so there's two grants that are talking about there. The school safety grants says it provides an additional 15 million recurring funds to place SROs in elementary and middle schools. So that 15 million pot there is specifically set aside for those. So we will be pursuing that.
Absolutely. So I wanted to be clear with everyone that that wasn't just something I was making up or just kind of holding on
Right,
to.
that was the policy purpose.
but
Correct.
That it got very specific on a state level
Correct.
this year.
And the General Assembly is also, they're working on this all the time.
They certainly are.
We attended the Safe Schools Conference that first week of August, and there were representatives there who were speaking on, their goals, and they were very ambitious. But they've been, a couple of them have been working on this for years. So, Ms. Williams.
Like the teacher shortage that we deal with.
Correct.
Is this SRO issue statewide, pretty much?
I can't speak to statewide, but it certainly is, a local issue. I know that Sheriff Hardy has his hands full.
He does. Some counties have proceeded and have been quite fortunate in going ahead, getting this taken care of on some of my superintendent calls.
Yeah.
So, you know how I am about the babes. I jump into mama bear mode.
Correct.
This is one of those when it comes to our employees and our students.
It seems like we're in one of those rare positions where we have money and
No
no people,
people.
when it's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
It is.
This is, I don't know.
You take-
Don't know how to act with this kind of thing, do you?
Well,
Correct.
So,
Well, so the hope is that they're working towards filling these positions, the ones we've contracted for, then we can jump on the ones that hopefully we can get
Yes, sir.
grants for.
That's
Mhm.
right.
That's correct.
And what I'll tell you is we have great working relationships, and the partnerships are just incredible. And I think the desire is there. Those we have are absolutely
Mhm.
phenomenal. We just need more. So I think it almost becomes a public service announcement to see if we have anyone in the community
Exactly. If
interested.
there's anybody you know that might be interested,
That's right.
please recommend that they do it.
It's just
And-
like
and
being an
again,
educator.
Sheriff Hardy has worked with us collaboratively very hard to try to make this work. And without getting too specific, because it's too premature, but I think that we have some ideas that are going to bear fruit.
Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Thank you.
Okay? No further questions. Then I would like to move to the next
Yes, sir.
item, which is, go ahead. Mr.
Our
Richardson.
next item is 5.03 need-based grant. At the August 8th meeting, which is this past Monday, the county commissioners received in that letter, remember, the second request we made to them was to replace the doors at our 4 elementary schools that were old sliding glass doors as a matter of safety. That came out of the liaison meeting, came to you, we put that in the letter. And so what they were wanting us to consider, they are willing to put up the 5% match required to do the need-based grant program that we have applied for already for Hawley. You're able to make multiple applications. So their portion of that $735,000, they're able to cover the 5%. Now, in order for us to do this, it's a joint application. And so they have approved their side. They are bringing to us now, if we're interested, to approve our side. And so, Mr. Graham?
Thank you. So, Stan, are you driving or is he? Okay. The slides, please. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of the grant itself, and it's hopefully this is a review for you all. But the needs that were identified, we came up with the, as Mr. Richards said, the doors as a primary need, and the estimates we got for that were, as Mr. Richards has said, $730,000. So that's what was relayed to the county commissioners. So in order to pursue this grant, Dr. McLean and I were on that webinar, and this was the recent guidelines that were given. These are the dates. So the application is now open, and they are due the 1st. So this is who's eligible. Counties with an adjusted market value of real property less than 40 billion are eligible to apply. The list of eligible counties is published. We looked at that list. We are on there was no change to us, so we are on that list. Next slide. The funds must be used for construction of new buildings and additions, repairs, and renovations. Certainly repairing the doors at these schools would qualify for this. It would be an appropriate use of this grant money. But so was the original grant, which is for a new school. Next slide. This is the sentence that causes heartburn, and I would like to draw your attention to it. An applicant may not apply for projects that exceed an aggregate amount greater than the maximum grant award amounts listed above in any single year. Our original grant was for $40 million for a middle school. That's the maximum amount that they will provide. So the part that I have a little bit of heartburn about is if we were to apply for another grant now, we either wouldn't receive this or we would not receive the other grant because we would be exceeding the original amount. So I just want to be clear about that. Go ahead, Ms. Williams, I see you.
Let's, for the sake of argument,
Yeah.
say that our original grant worth $38 million, and we had this one added to it. We wouldn't be exceeding it at that point.
Correct.
But what are the odds that they're going to approve 2 grants? I don't know. That concerns me a little bit.
I don't know. But what I can tell you is that I received confirmation from the planning department that original grant that was submitted is in the queue because we made no changes to that grant. So that grant, and that's part of the conditions. If you make no changes to it, then it's eligible to be considered again in the queue. And we made no changes to it. So it's the same grant we submitted, and it's for $40 million. So that's an issue that I have. Okay?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Number one is this amount of money for doors.
Yes, sir.
How many doors and what kind of, that's a lot of money for a few doors. I understand that, how many, was it like 4 or 5?
Doors?
Yeah.
Oh, no, sir. It's 3 or 4 schools.
Well, schools, I mean, there's, how many, what
I'm
I was trying
looking
to
right
figure
now.
out, how can I divide this 735 with $1 million? And get
So the frames for the doors, let's see,
35.
$150 each, total is $15,000. So that's how many we're talking about. We're talking about a lot of doors.
Okay. And so, but the other question I had to do with, besides this money, is get back to the 2 grants that we're talking about.
Correct.
One is for $40 million to do Hawley. And my question is to do, I mean, if we ask for another one, it just seems to me that if the state has a choice between giving us one of them, Hawley's out of the question, in my opinion.
Well, no.
So it's gonna leave us where we started. Now, on the other hand, isn't it the county's responsibility to take care of buildings anyway? So our question to
Yes, sir.
them, do they want to give us $40 million or whatever these doors cost? That would be my question to them. Because, I mean, it looks like they put the ball in our court
They have.
without consulting. Maybe they did consult us about it, I don't know.
No, sir. This was,
well,
so what I can tell you is we found out that they were even taking this up by accident. It was on an agenda packet that obviously is public, but like we were not realizing that this was gonna be discussed at their meeting Monday night until after we got there.
So the fact that county commissioners taking up stuff on our behalf by accident is crazy to start with. I mean, that's just the bottom line from where I'm coming from. So I mean, I don't see that we really need to make a decision, because at some point we are going to know whether we're gonna get the $40 million to do Hollywood.
Correct.
Or, I mean, they can't make that decision for us. Right? The county commissioner can't decide, well, you're gonna do this one instead of that one. Can they?
No, so the county
I'm not-
commissioners have already
I'm not-
signed on the first grant, so.
I'm not going to make that kind of decision for them. So, I mean, I don't know what the rest of you guys got to say, but I feel like they need to rely on what's best for us as a board. And in my opinion, I think at some point we're going to have to do something with Hawley. We put it off for 4 or 5 years now. So somebody gonna come along and condemn us before long.
Correct.
And then you're gonna have to do something. So, I see that as a priority.
No argument.
That's my dollar's worth, more than 50 cents.
Ms. Williams?
Just thinking about how this is such a priority issue, safety, are there any possible grant monies coming or being talked about at the federal level that schools can apply for help?
I'm not aware what those are, but I'm sure that we will explore them, yes. Yeah.
Now, in that slide that you had showed just a few moments ago, there was something about it was in the last presentation.
Right.
Safety facility, something or another.
Correct.
Is that something?
Equipment, safety equipment.
Okay, so it's equipment,
Mhm.
okay.
That slide right there. It provides for student in crisis, school safety training, safety equipment in school.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Board members, other thoughts or questions? This is presented to you as an action item today. You can move forward, not move forward.
Correct. So I would just like to bring you up to date. So that Mr. Richardson and Dr.
I'm sorry.
McLean asked the county to provide funding for additional SROs and to replace the outdated doors. Next slide. And then on 8 August, the county commissioners requested us to submit a needs-based grant to cover the cost of replacing the glass doors. They voted to provide the matching funds. We appreciate the fact that they are willing to provide that money. Next slide, please. You can see what we're talking about. So, you know, they stepped up to say, we will provide $35,000, and if you write the grant for the other. In theory and philosophically, there's nothing wrong with that. The issue that I want to point out to you is that if we apply, there we go, if we apply and it exceeds the aggregate amount, then we will not receive it. So I would be happy to suggest that we can apply next year for that grant, and we can seek other alternative funding, but
What is the
I would
age
hate
of
to
those
jeopardize
doors?
the original grant. Yes.
What is the age of the doors? Are they older doors
Yes,
that
we're
need to
talking
be
about
replaced
Creedmoor.
anyway?
Mhm. Yeah, and it's the fact that they're,
So it's not like they're 10 years old and we
No.
just want different doors?
no, we're talking about 30 years old.
Mr. Graham, will you
Yes.
identify the schools, please?
Yeah, it would be Creedmoor, Butnerstem Elementary, Butnerstem Middle, and West Oxford. Stovall. So our older schools,
West Oxford and Stovall, or just Stovall?
just Stovall.
So you said Creedmoor, West
Is it West Oxford?
Oxford?
Oh, it is West Oxford as
It's
well.
not Butnerstem Middle.
Yes,
Yeah.
Creedmoor, Butnerstem Elementary, Middle. Not the middle school, okay. I know Butnerstem Elementary, Stovall, and West Oxford. Those are the 4 schools.
And if you remember, going into Creedmoor, I hate to even say this way, going into Creedmoor, you see them in the front of the building. And it's that same design at all 4 buildings that's those type of doors that we're kind of concerned about.
Correct.
And when you say concern about, I'm pretty sure you're speaking of it as being a safety issue.
It's just a plate glass, basically.
Yeah. So that could definitely be a safety issue, which I cannot see why you brought that up along with, you know, the other items dealing with the SROs. And I would think that the commissioners, understanding this being a safety issue and not asking us to put in another grant like we did, that already specified that you cannot apply for projects that exceed the aggregate amount, knowing that we applied and we're at that amount that we cannot exceed, and wanting you to do it anyway, knowing that then both could get kicked out. It's just,
They have been informed of this. This may not apply exceeding.
Excuse me, the what?
The commissioners have been informed of this may not apply for exceeding provision.
Not specifically.
They
no.
don't know. about
okay,
that.
so
I
that's.
I think they took the vote before.
They did. They took the vote
Getting
on,
this
Figured
information.
out, yeah.
they took the vote on August 8th, so
Yeah.
that's when we found out.
Gotcha, okay.
So staff went back to look and figured out
Correct.
after they took their vote that this is there. Yeah.
And we
Okay.
cannot.
Actually, the staff went back to apply for the grant.
Okay,
And in the course of doing that,
found
came across this, so.
Okay.
So one suggestion that I brought up to staff, and I think I spoke about it in the liaison meeting, was, so this arose out of the original conversation of what are we doing, what is our biggest priorities for safety right now? We needed SROs in these doors, knowing that Mr. Graham and his team were doing walkthroughs of all the buildings. Commissioners have, even in your presentation, talked about ways to harden our buildings, those kind of things. So they, in my mind, they know there's an additional list coming. So maybe we give them the comprehensive list and then we figure out how to move forward. I mean, obviously these doors are a priority and they need to be done, but now we have probably 17 other, or however
Correct.
many other issues we're gonna have to correct just from this walkthrough we've done with the sheriff and the safety teams this year. So,
Mr. Chair, I keep going back to Hawley because
yes,
2 years ago, when we did a walkthrough in Hawley,
they
we
were
talked about
appalled.
all of the safety issues there. What happened to them? Did they go away?
No, sir.
I didn't think so. So when you talk about safety, I mean, we're still talking about safety when you talk about the number of safety issues there too.
Yeah.
So I just want people to bear that in mind as we move forward with this.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to provide some more information about the requirements of the grant, which was set up by the General Assembly. So to submit an application, it takes two. It takes the Board of Education and the commissioners, so both have to sign. And the priority levels include, they give priority to new construction or complete renovation of existing facilities. They also give priority to counties that have not already received a grant during the last 3 years. So those are just, there are 7 priorities, but those are the 2 that might apply in this case.
Correct. And we feel that the Hawley grant is a solid grant. We feel like that's a grant has merit and, you know, we're waiting with anticipation on that.
Board, I'd like to make, I can't make a motion, but I'd like to make a suggestion. My suggestion is if you do not want to take action on this based on the information you have received today, then you allow us to submit a letter back to them in response or communication back to them in response of the reasoning why we declined to do this. Not just that we're not doing it, we're not playing fair, but these are the reasons why we declined to do it. Being keeping Hawley at the top of our priority list, the fact that we can't exceed that aggregate amount, and the fact that there are more safety issues coming that we need to have addressed. That would just be a suggestion to you if you chose not to act on this today.
I think it's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah, I think we need to stay the course, considering everything that's basically been brought up. I think that we need to have another conversation. I don't know that a formal letter needs to be written, but I think a conversation needs to be had first to really make sure that we're clear about what we've uncovered and why we're not going forward with that kind of counter proposal, if you will.
Okay. Would someone like to put that in the form of a motion and us act on that, or you just fail to act on what's been brought to you?
No, excuse me. I think they need to know where we stand and why we stand there. And I think the only way we can do that is a letter, so that we will have a record and they will have a record of what's been said and done.
Okay. What's being suggested is that we could make a motion to decline their request and then state the reasons, if you'd like to them for that.
Sounds like the motion I would make.
If I may, the only thing that I would hesitate on is just, I've gotten rumblings about this whole formal letter thing, that it needs to be read at meetings and all of that kind of stuff. And while I do feel that we both need to have records so that we can say, well, on this date we did X, Y, and Z and you failed, and they can say, well, on this date we did whatever and you didn't do your part. I get that, but at the same time, I feel like we have a really, considering where our budget ended up this year, a positive relationship, and what I hesitate on is starting this whole back and forth with letters nonsense to the point that then we're just gonna start to, deteriorate the relationship that we've got going
I can
on.
agree with that, to the point of they did request the first letter. So,
Okay.
but I get what you're saying. I think it can be had in a liaison meeting and it be memorialized in some way that it's not this big, nasty, our attorney sends you this letter, your attorney sends that letter. But just to clear the air, that letter was requested to begin with.
Okay.
Because I think that's the rumbling that's not been corrected out there.
Okay.
And that was corrected in our commissioner liaison meeting.
Right.
So, board, if I understand, Mr. Peace, if I'm understanding your motion, we are declining their request at this time. And are you okay with communication to them in some way memorializing our objections, why, and how we want to move forward? Be it a liaison meeting and us coming up with an understanding, or do you want a formal letter?
Well, I don't know about the formal letter. I just think there needs to be a record of what we are doing.
Okay.
But, you know,
And we can do that
was in
similar to,
liaison meetings for years, and, you know, I sort of understand what goes on in them. And, you know, I sort of relate them to sessions where, you know, people get to sort of open up and talk about things, which is good. But there's a lot of formal stuff that goes on in them too.
yeah, when you walk away, you can say this occurred.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor now to decline the request made by the commissioners to apply for this second grant with their match, and that you authorize your liaisons to discuss with them the reasonings why, and there will be a record of that event after we conclude that. That motion's been made by Mr. Peace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. LeBrecq. Do we have any further discussion?
I think it would be good to point out that we certainly want to look for other sources of funding if they're available.
Absolutely. And I think the team will be poised,
Yeah.
ready to do that.
Correct.
All right. Anything further? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Peace, as a point of information, it was 102 doors.
It's a lot of doors.
That's- so-
It's a slow, big ship from China.
Mr. Graham, can I ask one quick question? Are any of the schools' situations more, well,
More desperate?
more desperate than the others as
I
far
would
as
say that Holly Middle School is
it's the worst?
concerned.
And then, as far as the elementary schools' doors? Or they're about the same situation?
They're very similar.
Okay.
Butler
I was
STEM-
just
Butler
wondering
STEM and
about,
Creedmoor are-
staging some
yeah.
things. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Board members, at this time, I'd like to thank Mr. Bill Graham for spending a large portion of his summer conducting safety walkthroughs. He's been in every building with law enforcement and emergency management conducting safety walkthroughs this summer, and I think our public would appreciate knowing that too. Mr. Graham, thank you very much for your work this
We're
summer.
still continuing. We've got a couple more.
There are a few more, and we're getting there, but you've done
We
a
are.
great job.
Yeah.
Hats off to you.
All right. Board members, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion that we adjourn to closed session in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A6, A3, A5, and Section 115C 321 for personnel and attorney-client privilege. Do I have someone willing to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. LeBrecq and a second by Mr. Peace. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are back in open session. At this time, we'd like to entertain a motion to approve the certified and classified personnel report that was presented to you in closed session.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion by Ms.
Second.
LeBrecq and a second by a bunch of people. Dr. McKnight.
Yeah, I dig it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Board members, you do have some dates there to remember if you want to look over that at your leisure. Madam Superintendent, anything further from you for this work session?
Just one quick thing, on Wednesday, for those of you who can, we will be at Granville Central for lunch with our beginning teachers at 11:30. At Granville Central, we will have some lunch. Mr. Richardson, you've been asked to bring a welcome with me. I'm going to give them a few little comments. We'll have lunch, and then we will hand out T-shirts. We'll have T-shirts for them this year. Mr. Perry, anything for you to add there for Wednesday?
Just come on out and fellowship with those new hires, and we happy to see you put a name with the face. We're excited, we've been busy planning for them, so team's done a great job, so have nothing else to do, well, come on out Wednesday. I won't say nothing else to do. Come on out Wednesday, join us.
And then at 3 p.m., you're
Yes.
asking us to meet at Granville Health Systems. There's ice cream, is that right?
Ice cream social.
Ice cream social at Granville Health Systems.
In the parking lot.
In the parking lot, so just dress cool and, you know, if you can.
Is it from 3 to 5?
It's from 3 to 5, and it's floating, so you don't have to stay, you know.
I do have one question about the T-shirts that
Yes.
we got. Are they for this event or for the one, the convocation?
Actually, it's great if you want to wear it. I love it. That's wonderful. We definitely are wearing those black shirts to breakfast, and Austin has a sign-up sheet. Is that right? You got those? Sign-up sheet for ambassador, for you to select your school this year, and then for breakfast on the morning of convocation. Each school is getting to have breakfast and convocation played on the screen this year. And our way of contributing is to show up at any school to help serve breakfast at a school. So I'm asking you to just select a school. It might be the school where you serve as ambassador, that's up to you. You might want to do another school where you won't get to be an ambassador. So Ms. Shave has that sheet we're just gonna pass around tonight. And we want you to wear your black shirts to serve breakfast. If you don't have your black shirt, just see Ms. Shave or let us get it to you between now and convocation.
Weren't at the leadership thing, so I've got those, and I know, Ms. Williams, forget the new size.
And if they need another size, just see Austin.
Okay, well, I think I ordered one. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
If there's nothing further, I'd like to entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Sanderson and a second by somebody, Ms. LeBret. Y'all messing me up now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. All right, so board, we will take